Chapter 20. O youth or young man, who fancy that you are neglected by the gods, know that if you become worse you shall go to the worse souls, or if better to the better, and in every succession of life and death you will do and suffer what like may fitly suffer at the hands of like. This is the justice of heaven. Plato. Sometimes life's most significant events are upon you before you are aware of them, like the silent approach of a jungle cat. How could you not have noticed something of such magnitude? The camouflage is psychological. Denial, the act of not seeing what is right before your eyes, because you really don't want to see, is the greatest disguise. Add in fatigue, distractions, rationalizations, mental escape, and all the other businesses of the mind that get in the way. Fortunately, destiny's persistence can pierce the disguises and distinguish that which you need to see, the foreground emerging from the background, like mastering one of those magic eye pictures. Over the past 15 years, I have often treated couples or families who have discovered each other together in past lives. Sometimes I have regressed couples who simultaneously and for the first time have found themselves interacting in the same prior lifetime. These revelations are often shocking to the couple. They have not experienced anything like this before. They are silent while the scenes are unfolding in my psychiatric office. It is only afterward, after emerging from the relaxed, hypnotic state, that they first discover they have been watching the same scenes, feeling the same emotions. It is only then that I also become aware of their past connections. But with Elizabeth and Pedro, everything was backward. Their lives, and their lifetimes, were unfolding independently and quite separately, in my office. They did not know each other. They had never met. They were from different countries and cultures. They came to the office on different days. Seeing them both separately and never even suspecting a link between them, I did not make the connection. They had loved each other and lost each other across lifetimes. Why didn't I see it before? Was it even my destiny? Am I supposed to be some cosmic matchmaker? Was I distracted, fatigued, in denial? Was I rationalizing away coincidences? Or was I right on schedule, the idea dawning at its sunrise, the way it was planned all along? It came to me one evening. Ellie. I had heard it from Elizabeth, weeks before, in my office. Earlier that day, Pedro could not remember his name. In a hypnotic trance, he had emerged in an ancient lifetime, one he had previously remembered in the office. In that lifetime, he had died after being dragged by leather sea-clad soldiers. His life ebbed away as his head rested in his beloved daughter's lap, and she rocked rhythmically with despair. Perhaps there was more to learn from that time. Once again, he remembered dying in her arms, his life fading away. I asked him to look at her closely, to look deeply into her eyes and to see if he recognized her as someone in his current life. No, he sadly answered. I don't know her. Do you know your name? I asked, returning his attention completely to that ancient lifetime in Palestine. He pondered this question. No, he finally said. I will tap you on the forehead as I count backward from 3 to 1. Let your name just pop into your mind, into your awareness. Whatever name comes to you is fine. No name popped into his mind. I don't know my name. Nothing comes to me. But something came to me, popping into my mind like a silent explosion, suddenly clear and vivid. Illy, I said aloud. Is your name Illy? How do you know that? He responded from the ancient depths. That is my name. Some call me Elihu, and some call me Illy. How do you know? Were you there, too? I don't know, I answered truthfully. It just came to me. I was very surprised at the whole situation. How did I know? I have had psychic or intuitive flashes before, but not often. This felt as if I were remembering something rather than receiving a psychic message. Remembering from when? I could not place it. My mind stretched to remember, but I could not. I knew from experience that I should stop trying to remember. Let it go, get on with the day, the answer would probably arrive spontaneously in a while. An important piece of some strange puzzle was missing. I could feel its absence, hinting at a crucial connection still to be found. But a connection to what? I tried, not very successfully, to concentrate on other things. Later that evening, the puzzle piece arrived suddenly and very softly in my mind. All at once, I was aware of it. It was Elizabeth. About 2 months ago, she had recounted a tragic but touching lifetime as a potter's daughter in Ankara, Palestine. Her father had been killed, accidentally, by Roman soldiers after they dragged him around from the back of a horse. The soldiers had not really cared what happened to him. His mangled body, his bleeding heel, had been cradled by his daughter as he died in the dusty street. She had remembered his name in that lifetime. His name was Ali. My mind was working quickly now. The details of the two Palestinian lifetimes fit together. Pedro's and Elizabeth's memories of that time meshed perfectly. Physical descriptions, events, and names were the same. Father and daughter. I have worked with many people, usually couples, who have found themselves together in previous lives. Many have recognized their soul companions, traveling together through time to be united once again in the current lifetime. Never before had I encountered soulmates who had not yet met in the present time. In this case, soulmates who had traveled nearly 2000 years to be together again. They had come all this way. They were within inches and minutes of each other, but they had not yet connected. At home, with their charts filed away in my office, I tried to remember if they had shared other lifetimes. No, not as monks. One story but not two, at least not yet. Not on the India trading routes, not in the mangrove swamps of Florida, not in the malarial Spanish Americas, not so far in Ireland. These were the only lifetimes I could remember. Another thought dawned. Perhaps they had been together in some or all of those times but had not recognized each other, because they had not met in the present. There was no face, no name, no landmark in the present life, no one to connect to the people in previous incarnations. Then I remembered Elizabeth's Western China, the time-worn sweeping plains where her people were massacred and where she and a few other young women were captured. On these same plains, which Pedro pinpointed as Mongolia, he had returned to find his family, his kin, his people destroyed. Pedro and I had assumed that his young wife had been killed amid the chaos, destruction, and despair described in his recall. She had not. She had been captured and taken away for the rest of her lifetime, never to be held again in the strong arms of her Mongol husband. Now those arms had returned through the hazardous mists of time to hold her again, to hug her sweetly to his breast. But they did not know. Only I knew. Father and daughter, childhood lovers, husband and wife. How many more times throughout history had they shared their lives and their love? They were together again, but they didn't know it. Both were lonely, both suffering in their way. Both were starving, and yet a feast had been set before them, a feast they could not yet smell or taste. I was severely constrained by the laws of psychiatry, if not the more subtle rules of karma. The strictest of the laws is that of privacy or confidentiality. If psychiatry were a religion, breaching a patient's confidentiality would be one of its cardinal sins. At the least, the breach could constitute malpractice. I could not tell Pedro about Elizabeth, nor Elizabeth about Pedro. Whatever the karma or spiritual consequences of intervening in another's free will, the consequences of violating psychiatry's main law were quite clear. The spiritual consequences would not have deterred me. I could introduce them and let destiny take its course. The psychiatric consequences stopped me cold. What if I were wrong? What if a relationship between them began, soured, and ended badly? There could be anger and bitterness. How would this reflect back on their feelings about me as their trusted therapist? Would their clinical improvement unravel? Would all their good therapeutic work be undone? There were definite risks. I also had to examine my own subconscious motives. Was my need to see my patients become happier and healthier, to find peace and love in their lives, affecting my judgment now? Were my own needs urging me to cross the boundary of psychiatric ethics? The easy choice would be to leave well enough alone, to say nothing. No harm done, no consequences. When in doubt, do no harm. Whether or not to write many lives, many masters was a similar and very difficult decision. Writing my first book endangered my entire professional career. After 4 years of hesitation, I had decided to write it. Once again, I chose to take the risk. I would intervene. I would try to nudge destiny along. As a concession to my training and to my fears, I would do it as carefully and as subtly as possible. The scenes and details of specific historical epochs remembered by Elizabeth, Pedro, and many of my other patients are very similar to each other. These images are not necessarily like the ones we learned in Sunday school, from history books, or from television. They are similar because they come from actual memories. Carolina Gomez, the former Miss Columbia and first runner-up in the 1994 Miss Universe pageant, remembered in one regression being a naked man pulled to his death by Roman horses. This death is similar to one remembered by Pedro. A few other patients have also remembered horse-drawn deaths, not only in Roman times but, unfortunately, in many other cultures as well. A patient of mine from Colorado remembered being stolen from her Native American tribe and never seeing her family again. She eventually escaped, but she died in the equivalent of a mental ward in the Old West. How similar this is to Elizabeth's experience in Isaiah. The theme of separation and loss is a common one in past life regressions. We are all seeking to heal our psychic wounds. This need to heal emphasizes the remembering of old traumas, which have caused our pain and symptoms, rather than the remembering of serene and peaceful times, which have not left scars. I occasionally work with 2 or more people at the same time. When I do this, I do not have either of them speak because they might disturb each other. Recently in my office I regressed a couple simultaneously. Their silent regression took up the entire session, and we had no time to review their experiences. The couple left the office and began to compare notes. Incredibly, they had both experienced a lifetime together. In his lifetime he was a British officer in the 13 colonies, and in hers she was a woman who lived there. They met and fell deeply in love. He was recalled to England and never again returned to visit his love. She was devastated by the loss, and yet there was nothing either one could do about it. Colonial society and the British military followed strict rules and customs. They both saw and described the colonial woman in the same antique clothes. They both described the ship on which he had left the colonies to return to England and the tearful, sad parting that occurred at that time. All the details of their recall matched. Their memories also illustrated problems in their current life relationship. One major problem was her nearly obsessive fear of separation from him and his constant need in return to reassure her that he was not going to leave her. Her fear and his need had no basis in the reality of their current relationship. The pattern had its roots in colonial times. Other therapists performing past life regressions are finding the same results. Traumas arise more frequently than peaceful memories. Death scenes are important because they are often traumatic. Lifetimes seem familiar and important scenes seem similar because the same themes and the same inventions of man have arisen at all times in all cultures. The thing that hath been, it is that which shall be, and that which is done is that which shall be done, and there is no new thing under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Soulmate. This is a part of Zindagi Ki Roshni consultancy. It has been established for those who have lost someone and for those who are very sad in their life. About 100 PDF books and 20 short audio books of this topic will be sent to those who join it. This data will be sent to their email or WhatsApp. If you want to join this organization, then please send WhatsApp message to this number.